Hello everyone. In this session, I will be covering few more topics in software testing. In my sessions today, I will be covering partition testing, testing guidelines, component testing, interface testing, system testing, and use case testing. In my last session, I ended the session with partition testing. So today I will be covering in more depth partition testing. So here in partition testing, input data and output results fall into different classes where all members of a class are related. So each of these classes are in equivalence partition or domain where the programs behave in an equivalent way for each class member. So whenever I divide the data into different classes, so every class member will behave in a same way. Test cases should be chosen from each partition. So rather than going ahead with all the values in the particular class, what I do is I will consider only set of members from that particular equivalence class, and I will be testing my program whether it works properly or not. Based on that, I will be deciding whether my particular program is properly working or not. So let us see the diagrammatic representation of equivalence partitioning. Here you can see in the first oval there are input equivalence partitions. These are the possible inputs. Within that you are having so many classes. Every class is one partition. So let me give you one simple example. Say for example income tax. So income tax is having certain slabs. See for example a person who is earning less than 3 lakhs will come under one class, and he will be having a different tax rate. From 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs the tax rate is different. From 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, again tax rate is different. Above 10 lakhs, the tax rate is different. So what actually happens is every oval, white oval, which is there in the big oval, will represent one particular class. So this will be given as input. So I need not have to give inputs for, say for example, I want to test whether income tax is properly calculated for the category from 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs. I need not have to check from 5 lakh 1 to 10 lakh all the values. Just I can consider any set of values, maybe 5 or 10, and find whether it works properly or not. So output partitions, what actually happens here is, so possible outputs again they can come under different classes. See for example 5 lakhs it will have different calculation, again that will fall into different category. 10 lakhs may have different set of outputs that will come into different category. Let us consider few examples for equivalence partitions. Let me consider first a simple example of cylinder subsidy. Say here for example every Indian household will get cylinders up to 3 with 20% discount on bill value. More than 4 cylinders if they are taking and less than 10 or equal to 10, less than or equal to 10, they will be getting discount of around 10%. More than 10 they will not be getting any discount. So what actually happens here is clearly you can see 3 classes here, and then based on that we can divide the data into 3 separate classes. And you may be seeing here I have written boundary values. Boundary values are nothing but these are the values which are exactly near the boundary of that particular range. Why these boundary values? These boundary values needs to be tested before saying that our software is working properly. The reason behind this is many times the programmers make mistake of not writing equal to symbol along with less than or greater than. So that creates a problem. Many numbers fall in different categories because of missing out equal to symbol with less than or greater than symbols. So second example is employee salary. Employee salary is given here. I am issuing BPL cards to them or normal ration cards to them. If they are getting less than 10,000, then I will be giving them BPL card. Between 10,000 to 99,999, I will be giving normal ration card. More than 99,999, they will not be getting any ration card. So here again we can see here 3 classes. Along with that you can see the boundary values. These needs to be tested before saying that our software is working properly. This is another example. A password field cannot be shorter than 4 and longer than 28, including characters which are numeric and alphanumeric. How many classes we can see here is 3. The reason is, see, if it is less than 4, it should not be accepted as a password. 4 and 28, yes, it should be password. And above 28, you cannot consider it as a password because maybe there is a storage issue. So what actually happens here is I can see 3 classes. Boundary values you can observe here. I have taken 3 values. In some particular references you may find only 2 values. In some references you may find 3 values. See, 0 is one boundary. For that I am testing -1, 0 as well as 1. And 3 is another boundary where 2, 3, 4 are taken. 4 and 28 are the two boundaries. 3, 4, 5 and 27, 28, 29 are the boundary values which are tested. 28 and above, no testing is done because 29 already is tested. So let me consider one more example wherein it is relating to military service. I hope you will solve this particular problem, the problem here. And one more is given with respect to postal service. Again, you can see here 5 equivalence classes are made. Boundary values are also given. While testing, some guidelines needs to be followed. Suppose if you are giving the values in sequence, what actually happens is test the software with sequences which have only single value. Many times what actually happens is, I'll give you some simple example. Suppose if you are sorting 10 numbers, or suppose you are sorting some numbers. What actually happens is, usually whenever you sit for testing, what you do is you will give 5 numbers, 10 numbers, 15 numbers like that. But check, give only one value. Take one single number, what actually happens with your particular program, you have to check. Second one, use sequences of different sizes in different tests. So what actually happens is, you try to give different sequences of different sizes in different tests. Many times your set of values may be dependent on even and odd numbers. So suppose if it is an even number, it may work properly. Odd numbers are there, then rounding and sealing values may create a problem. Keeping in view of that, you need to test. Third one is derive tests so that the first, middle and last elements of the sequence are accessed. So usually you have to see, for example, many times while testing you need to check. Say, suppose if you are searching the one particular number, usually middle number is very critical. Middle number, first number, last numbers are critical. So while designing the test case, see that first, middle and last elements are accessed. Sometimes test with a sequence of 0 length also needs to be done. See, so if you are sorting some numbers, so at that time give 0 as an input. What will happen? Just check. So this is another way of test. So again, choose inputs that force the system to generate all error messages. You go on giving the values. Say for example, you enter the values which is above the range. At that time, it should generate some error message. Error message means it should not be a crash of the system. Error message written by the programmer needs to be displayed. Design inputs that cause the input buffers to overflow. Sometimes if you are taking factorial of a number, at that time what actually happens, or even Fibonacci series also. So if you cross some value, say for example factorial of 5, 6, 7, it works properly. But when you increase the number, suppose if you have declared factorial as a simple integer, then if you are crossing factorial of 10, 11, 12, at that time buffers will start overflowing. What actually happens, that you need to check. Repeat the same input or series of inputs numerous times. Maybe you may wonder what is the fun in doing this particular test. There are certain situations wherein you are taking some clock as an input along with the regular input, some random number as input along with this particular input to test data. At that time, what actually happens is, this random number is dependent on the clock. All the time same random number will not be generated. So check whether it works properly or not. Force invalid outputs to be generated. You have to give some inputs in such a way that it should generate some outputs which are invalid. That also needs to be done. Force computation results to be too large or too small. As I already given you some examples like factorial and Fibonacci series, give some values which will generate huge numbers. At that time, whether it is going to give you the correct value or not, you can check it properly. Next one is component testing. Components are nothing but these are the composite components that are made up of several interacting objects. So what actually happens here is, there can be several objects. For example, in academic system, you may have object of student, an object defined as a faculty, an object defined as a administrator, an object defined as university, an object defined as a department may be there. So they may be interacting with one another. One object may be taking some data from another one, another object may be sending some data to some other object. So what actually happens here is, when they start interacting, then there can be possibilities that one object may generate some error which will lead to chain of errors. So you need to test each and every component and say that yes, it is working properly as per your. Components often work under the umbrella of interface. What actually happens here is many components, when they start interacting, or when you are designing a software with many components, these objects or components will be shown in the form of an interface, wherein their interactions will be hidden by an interface. So whenever you are providing the test case, you should be alert relating to these cases, test cases, while designing the test cases, so that while giving the inputs you should see that whether these components are really interacting, whether they are really passing the data, and are you getting the proper outputs from these inputs. So this interface, while testing, certain things needs to be remembered. So here basically the objective is to detect faults due to interface errors or invalid assumptions about interfaces. Many times we may design an interface, but at the end of the day what actually happens is our assumptions may be different about interfaces, their interactions, and the way they are sending the information from one particular object to another object. So there are several interface types which needs to be worked out to say that interface testing is working properly or not. First one within that is parameter interface, where data pass from one method or procedure to another. So just to check through the interface whether data from one particular object is properly passed to another object. Suppose if there is a data interaction is there between two objects, parameter interface is one particular methodology where using that you need to check whether parameters or data is passed from one method to another. Second one is the shared memory interface, where block of memory is shared between procedures or functions. Many times what actually happens is during this interface interactions, so many objects or classes or methods, they share a common location or a common memory part. So what actually happens is, say for example global memory. So they may be sharing one global variable, they may be sharing. So when sharing, one object interacts with that particular variable. Immediately after that some other object will try to interact with that particular variable. So how they are interacting, what is their timing, and which will interact first, those all things needs to be kept in proper order so that shared memory interface works properly or not can be checked. Next one is procedural interface, where subsystem encapsulates a set of procedures to be called by other subsystems. So what actually happens is, maybe there is interaction between one procedure or one particular method to another particular method. One function calls another function. So just check whether these particular procedures are called in order, or once one procedure completes its task, whether it is going back to the called procedure or not, that needs to be tested. And last one is message passing interface, where subsystems request services from other subsystems. There is possibility that one particular subsystem may be requesting service from other subsystem, whether other subsystem is receiving that request, and whether it is serving that particular request. Whenever it sends a request, what are the values which are going to be set, whether any flags are set. Once the procedure is completed, whether flags are again set back to 0, these all needs to be checked out. What are the common errors we can see while testing interfaces? Basically the first one is interface misuse. So what actually happens is, a calling component calls another component and makes an error in its use of its interface. So parameters passed in the wrong order. Maybe you have seen in C programming, when we pass the parameters in wrong order, how actually it gives wrong results. Similar to that, many times what actually happens is, we are sending some particular parameters from one particular object or one particular method to another one. So while sending, we may commit a mistake of sending in the wrong order, so that will create a problem. Second one is interface misunderstanding, where a calling component embeds assumptions about behavior of the called component which are incorrect. So sometimes what actually happens is, I may think that factorial, it takes only integer values, I sent something. But the called component may be behaving in some other way. It may be taking some fractional number, and it may result in some wrong outputs. Last one is timing errors. Timing errors are nothing but the called and the calling components operate at different speeds, and out of date information is accessed. This happens many a times. So what actually happens is, you may be playing a game. So maybe 2-3 people are playing one game. So you have moved your particular next move, and the next person wants to make his move, but here because of some delay, he may not see what move you have made. So what actually happens is, their error has occurred. So what actually happens here is timing errors will create lots of issues with respect to gaming related thing, as well as sometimes even network errors also can happen with respect to interface errors. While testing interface, the following guidelines needs to be followed. First one is design tests so that parameters to a called procedure are at the extreme ends of their ranges. So similar to our partition testing, what you need to do is while passing the parameters, give a value such a way that they should be at their extreme end, that is border values you need to check. Always test pointer parameters with null pointers. So if you are working with C, check with the null pointer assignments. Many times many programmers face this issue. Design tests which cause the component to fail. So what actually happens is, see that you make the component to fail and how actually your system responds, that is also very important. Whether it crashes or it says that there is an error, it needs to be corrected. Use stress testing in message passing systems. So what actually you need to do is, you go on passing the values. Many times you might have seen, sometimes because of huge volume of data, because of huge volume of entry of many people at the same time, some particular browsers will stop working or they will crash. Usually this happens during big day sales or in some particular sales related issues. So use stress testing in such situations and check how actually it is going to work. In shared memory systems, vary the order in which components are activated. So what actually happens is, when memory is common, so what actually happens is, one is calling and one particular class is calling, next another particular class calls, or sometimes some method is going to call. Change their order and see how actually the variable is acting, and based on that you can identify whether it is properly working or not. The last part of development testing is system testing, where system testing, what actually it involves is, it will try to integrate all the components which are developed and then checking the version of the system and finally testing the integrated system. See, we keep on developing the components, finally all the components needs to be integrated and then it needs to be tested so that we can deliver the software to the customer at the end. So basically the focus of system testing is to test the interaction between components. How one component, say for example, if a particular software is developed for college, there can be components for exam system, library system, department system, or academic, maybe extracurricular activity system. So these are the components which are developed for a college software. So then we need to see that when they interact, maybe the academic section may be interacting with exam section may be interacting with library section may be interacting with office section. So how they are interacting, that needs to be checked. System testing checks that components are compatible. Many times what actually happens is, there can be several groups which are working on different components. So maybe there is a possibility that one is working on one particular version of a software, another may be working on another version. That should not create any problem. And while they should interact correctly as well as transfer right data at the right time, because response time is very critical. So if one particular part is transferring the data very slowly, another one is transferring very quickly, then it can create problem. So system testing tests the emergent behavior of a system. It is very critical, important. So what actually happens here is, see, I will again give the example of a bicycle, wherein the pedal system as well as the chain system and the wheel system, when they interact with one another, suppose if I press the pedal, automatically the wheel will start moving. Pedal as well as chain system, when they interact, they will make the wheel to move. So similar to that, there can be one or two particular objects which will make one more object active, or one particular activity active. So this is called as emergent behavior of the system. Next thing here is system and component testing. What actually happens is, during system testing, there are certain reusable components or some off-the-shelf components which we have taken from the old projects, or sometimes we might have purchased it and we want to integrate it to our system. When we want to integrate into our system, this needs to be thoroughly tested, because these are the components which are nowhere interacting with or nowhere concerned with the current system being developed. And what actually happens here is, components may be developed by different team members or sub team members which needs to be integrated. At that time what actually happens is, this integration should happen collectively. So that's why many times many companies, they will hire a testing team which is nowhere related to the development team. So they will test the system completely from beginning till end to find if there are any. Sometimes system testing is done with the help of use cases. Use cases are the basis for system testing because use case represent the complete system. Each use case may involve several components or several interactions which are happening within the system. So what actually happens is sometimes use cases along with the sequence diagrams are tested and checked whether any interactions are properly happening or there are any errors in that. For example, we can consider now the collect weather data sequence chart which is given here. So what actually happens is instead of taking the code and checking the system directly, we can take this diagram and we can check whether the weather information system, when it sends a request, whether that particular request is properly going, whether it is generating report weather, whether there is an acknowledgement is coming, and whether there is a reply, and then whether the summary is being generated or whether summarized information is going to the weather data. These all things can be checked with the help of this particular sequence chart. Okay, that's all for this session. In the next session, I will be continuing with the testing policies as well as test driven development. Thank you.